Hello, at 12:56 p.m. on October 16, 2022, a 911 operator unexpectedly received a strange call. On the other end of the line, there was no one speaking, only a continuous sound of resembling a small scream, could be heard. The 911 operator asked, "What are you reporting? What do you need to report?" Due to the faint sound, the operator could not gather any information, but made a guess based on intuition. From the voice, it seemed the caller was a woman, and the sounds coming from her throat indicated that her mouth was probably blocked and she couldn't speak. The 911 operator continued, "Okay, I will assist you right now. Please hold on a moment. Do you know your address?" At that point, there were some noises in the phone sound resembling a struggle, and urgent, unusual banging noises, as in special cases. The operator then used digital analysis to locate the source of the signal and sent the information to the police force. After receiving feedback, the operator contacted the nearest police officers to investigate the situation. After a while, the voice on the other end of the line grew weaker until it was completely silent. Although the phone was still connected, no more sounds were coming through. The story took place in the city of Lacey, located in the suburbs of Washington State in the western part of the United States. This area includes coastal plains, and with the convenient traffic of interstate highways, the residents enjoy a fairly harmonious, healthy, and happy life. In Lacey, there's a couple named Chae Kyong An, 53 years old, and Young Sook An, 42 years old. They have 2 children, a 20-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. They have been living there for 4 years. They reside in a normal, peaceful neighborhood. However, life is not always smooth, and people would be truly fortunate if life never encountered such upheavals. In the summer of 2022, due to family conflicts, Young Sook An filed for divorce with the court. The couple had separated and were preparing for divorce proceedings. Chae Kyong An had moved out. Therefore, currently only Young Sook An and their 2 children were living in the house. Chae still occasionally visited to do laundry and take care of the children. Around 12:30 p.m. on October 16, 2022, after returning from church, Young Sook An and her 2 children found Chae's car parked in the driveway. This was not surprising, as he usually came over on that day each week to do laundry and play with the kids. Compared to seeing each other daily as before, they felt this change was much better. This time, they could discuss the divorce. The children had just returned home and had not yet had a chance to talk to their father before their mother asked them to go to the supermarket. Next came the conversation between the couple. Neither side would compromise on the division of assets, and eventually they began to argue. Chae Kyong An said, uncontrollably, "Even if I die, I will never give you any alimony." Young Sook An was very angry upon hearing this, but she did not pay much attention because they had been together for too long. Similar arguments had frequently occurred over the years. Young Sook An demanded that Chae Kyong An leave the house immediately. She felt exhausted and went upstairs to change clothes, not realizing that Chae Kyong An had followed her into the bedroom. Taking advantage of Young Sook An's unawareness, Chae Kyong An attacked her from behind, then used duct tape to cover her mouth, blindfold her, and tie her hands and feet. After doing this to his wife, Chae Kyong An temporarily left. How could a man suddenly go insane like that? What did he want? Was he drunk or something? Questions like these kept swirling in Young Sook An's mind. She was in a state of extreme fear. The only thing she knew now was that her husband had gone mad. In her panic, she remembered the Apple Watch she was wearing. She quickly sent an emergency alert message to a friend and her eldest daughter, and also called 911 to report to the police. At that moment, she could not speak, but could only hope for a chance of survival. And the call at the beginning of the story was made by her. At that moment, her eyes and mouth were sealed with tape, and her hands and feet were tightly bound. She was alone in the room. Young Sook An struggled and tried desperately to send a distress signal to the outside world. Fortunately, the police had been dispatched. But unfortunately, Chae Kyong An had just returned. Surveillance footage from the neighbor across the street showed Chae driving into the garage and dragging Young Sook An from the bedroom downstairs. It was then that he discovered that the watch on her wrist was still connected to 911. Realizing the situation, he decided he needed to act quickly. So he removed the watch, picked up a hammer, and struck it several times, even hitting Young Sook An's wrist a few more times. After that, he forced her to take an unknown drug and then dragged her into the trunk of his car before driving away from the house. The surveillance footage showed that the police car, while investigating, happened to pass by Chae Kyong An's speeding truck. Since the police were on an urgent mission, they did not stop to interrogate. The speeding truck easily drove out of the area and headed toward the mountains. Meanwhile, the police arrived at Young Sook An's house. They had no idea what had happened here. It could have been a robbery, kidnapping, or murder. They approached the house and called out, "Lacey Police Department. If you are inside, let us know." Police's call immediately caused the neighbors' dogs to bark loudly everywhere. Upon entering, the police found a broken Apple Watch on the ground, still connected to 911. There was no one in the house, front door and garage were wide open, and there were no signs of a struggle. At that time, the children who had gone to the supermarket returned. They saw a group of police officers unexpectedly at the house, and their parents were missing. A bad feeling suddenly arose. After some discussion, the eldest daughter said, "Half an hour ago, Mom told us to go to the supermarket. She wanted to talk to Dad. Shortly after, I received an emergency message from Mom. Just now, on the way home, I also saw Dad's car passing by." During the subsequent investigation, the police discovered that the family had previously reported domestic violence, with Chae Kyong An as the main suspect. Additionally, Young Sook An had a protective order and a no-contact order against him, but it had been revoked by the court. Police visited neighboring houses and collected some surveillance footage. They then realized that the speeding vehicle was driven by the suspect Chae Kyong An. They immediately launched a citywide manhunt and issued an arrest warrant. On the long road, a car had traveled about 11 kilometers from the starting point. It seemed far enough. No one would reach that remote forest. In a desolate place, a man and a woman were alone. They had once loved and married each other. Originally, they were not a lonely pair, but now the love had faded, replaced by hatred. Chae Kyong An looked around and finally saw a spot he liked, resembling a grave. Throughout the journey, Young Sook An was dazed. She felt the car had stopped. Before she could react, Chae Kyong An dragged her out of the car. Then she felt a sharp knife piercing her chest. The intense pain quickly made her mind a little clearer. At that moment, she realized she might have been taken to a distant suburb. She vaguely saw a person with a shovel digging as the sun set. As the sky grew darker, the hole in front of her grew larger. Young Sook An, bound and gagged, could only hear the sound of the shovel moving up and down. Gradually, a hole was formed. Chae Kyong An pulled Young Sook An down into the hole and began to cover her with dirt. Perhaps because he had drugged her and stabbed her in the chest, he believed that Young Sook An would no longer be able to resist or escape. Moreover, burying her alive would certainly ensure she would suffocate to death. In reality, Young Sook An was still quite conscious at that time. She knew she couldn't escape the situation as her hands and feet were tightly bound. She felt each shovelful of dirt falling on her body and face. She could only slightly tilt her head to prevent dirt from getting into her nose. Fortunately, Chae Kyong An did not notice this small movement of hers. For a moment, the sound of the shovel also stopped. Young Sook An could clearly feel the pressure of the dirt on her body. She felt Chae Kyong An stepping on the dirt a few times. Then suddenly, something heavier was placed on top, a log that Chae Kyong An had specifically prepared for her. After doing all this, Chae Kyong An returned to the car. While Young Sook An was buried underground, she survived on the thin air. After hearing the car engine start, she began to wriggle. First, she tried to free her hands from the tape and removed the tape around her mouth, eyes, and ankles. This process took an entire hour. The pain in her chest grew worse, but she did not care about it. She slowly moved up from the dirt. As soon as she lifted her head, she saw her husband's car not far away. There was a foggy layer on the car window. The lights inside the car provided the only light for the dark area. Feeling at that moment was terrifying. After a while, she knew her wounds could not endure any longer. She used all her strength to push the log aside and climbed out of the hole. After climbing out, she ran in the opposite direction from the car. About 20 to 30 minutes later, she saw a house. It was 12:52 a.m. Without hesitation, she knocked on the door and went inside, recounting everything she had been through to the homeowner. Although her body was covered in dirt and filth, the family was very kind and helped her by calling the police. When the police arrived, Young Sook An was still hiding behind the family's shed. After confirming that the visitors were police officers, she ran out and sought help. She said, "My husband wants to kill me. Please save me. He is still somewhere in this area." Seeing the dirt on her clothes, bruises, and remnants of tape, the police believed her. They then helped her clean her wounds and took her to the hospital. Let's review the map of the incident. Here is Young Sook An's house. This is the area where she was buried, and here is the house where she sought help. At around 7:38 a.m. on October 17th, the following morning, a resident on the road discovered a suspicious blue car, which was the subject of a police search, parked near Statman Road, and reported it to the police. Thurston and Lacey County Police responded swiftly. 44 minutes later, the suspect Chae Kyong An was arrested and detained. His physical and mental health was assessed and found to be entirely normal. He faced 3 different charges: attempted murder, kidnapping, and first-degree assault. On October 18, 2022, Chae Kyong An was taken to Thurston County Jail to await trial. By the end of the day, the police had found a hole approximately 1.65 meters long, 0.76 meters wide, and 48 centimeters deep near Statman Road, where Young Sook An had been buried. Inside, they found remnants of tape, blood, hair, and fragments of the watch. Prosecutors later charged Chae Kyong An with first-degree premeditated murder, domestic violence, kidnapping, assault, and first-degree extortion. The deputy prosecutor also requested that the court deny bail. Young Sook An also hired a private attorney. She said, "Please do not grant him bail. I am very concerned for my safety. I just want to emphasize that I am truly afraid of him. If he gets out, he will definitely come back to kill me." Chae Kyong An's defense attorney mentioned that the bail amount could be set at $150,000, which would serve as a preventive measure. Additionally, Chae Kyong An was a veteran who had served in the U.S. intelligence agency for 30 years and had no prior criminal record. It was suggested that the immense psychological pressure he faced during his career might have contributed to his crimes. However, this was precisely what worried Young Sook An the most. She knew her husband had worked for the intelligence agency for 30 years. If he had malicious intentions, he would be capable of unimaginable things after his release. Ultimately, the court agreed to deny him bail. As of now, the case is still ongoing. Although Young Sook An narrowly escaped death and returned to a normal life, going shopping and preparing Halloween treats for her children, the aftermath of the trauma goes beyond physical wounds. Perhaps it is the emotional scars. She will never forget that near-death experience. Reflecting on the entire case, Chae Kyong An's decisive and ruthless actions are truly terrifying. Young Sook An's call to the police for help during the danger made the situation even more dramatic. When misfortune strikes, try to stay calm and use all available resources to resolve the issue. Have faith in life, as there are many beautiful things awaiting us outside. The case of Young Sook An burying his wife alive is not just a horrifying story of domestic crime, but also a stark reminder of the importance of recognizing and addressing psychological issues. It reminds us that domestic violence is not a private matter, but a societal issue that needs to be addressed promptly and seriously. We hope this story raises awareness about the consequences of violent actions and helps promote a more just and compassionate society. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on future stories. See you in the next video.